Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm Coach, a mother of four, and potty talker, Ann Kaplan. This is the podcast where I confess something from my own parenting and coaching life, teach a lesson around it, and answer your questions. Even we parenting experts are far from perfect, and the real magic happens when we get down with all that imperfection. We get into the gritty side of parenting here, so earbud up and dive in. Welcome back into the podcast, everybody. I'm so excited to be here again with you this week. And we're so lucky because we get to have part two of this interview series I'm doing with moms who've come on the retreat with me in the past. And last time I had an episode with Melissa and KB, who had such a great conversation about the obstacles that we experience as parents in terms of taking care of ourselves, putting ourselves first, like prioritizing ourselves, and the things that get in the way, whether they're logistical, financial, maybe they even could be like mental, but those blocks that really, keep us stuck. And today, what we're going to be talking about a little bit more is this idea of doing the work. What does that even mean? What is that work? And what is sort of the outcome of doing that work? Like, how does that impact our lives? So thank you so much, both of you, Allie and Johnna, for being here. Welcome into the podcast, you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Thanks, Anne.
Yes. So I want to start by asking you guys just what was your experience of coming on the retreat? And whoever wants to go first. How about you, Johnna?
Okay. That is a big question, Anne. I don't know where to begin. My experience of going on the retreat overall, I would say, was absolutely wonderful. It felt like a few-day pass into an exploration of myself and how I want to be in the world, what I desire, what I need. A lot of care and tenderness, and I think that was all due to your perfect curation of the entire the retreat, down to literally every meal and every last detail of what we did.
Yeah. Well, and I think actually that's a really great point, Johnna, because you got like the queen bee treatment when it came to food. And I loved watching that in every way. I thought it was just so beautiful how our chef took care of you. And I thought it was so beautiful how you let yourself receive that because, that was like actually, even in that experience, that's a version of the work for you.
It was probably one of the hardest things that I was doing at the retreat and stepping into, knowing I was going to go there, because I do require special diet, and it is very anxiety provoking for me to travel and to be a part of situations where I don't have control over my meals and I'm at risk. And I also struggled tremendously with asking for what I need and want. So you're right.
Mhm.
Being in a space where I sort of had to do that to participate in the retreat. And of course, Andrew took amazing care of me, and I was so well fed. And it was a really, really happy moment for me.
Yeah. And I watched you struggle with it and overcome that and just and finally by the end, just be like, give it to me. I love it. And I could kind of see you really, grow in your own personal work through that experience. So
Yeah,
I thought this was a funny little perfect sideways segue into that idea of the work. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
How about you, Allie?
Yeah, I mean, the retreat was, for me, it was just an incredible experience and time to really just be able to get back to me, to get back to who I am and how I really want to show up in the world. For whatever reason, just whether it's kids, marriage, life, we kind of put up these walls. And for me personally, I can have a hard time being vulnerable when I'm feeling in a challenging situation. And I for me coming on the retreat, I didn't know a single woman. Um, I was coming by myself and I chose to share a room with somebody just for one, I thought it could be a fun experience, and two, it made the price a little bit cheaper, so that
Hmm.
was a bonus. And but I was definitely, I'm sharing a room and a bed with a woman that I hadn't met before except on Zoom, and so it was definitely a little bit anxiety provoking. But I, I mean, when I say literally, like it just felt like family, not knowing any of these women in this incredible space, the group dynamic and meeting these women for the first time, sharing a room with somebody. I mean, it just could not have been more perfect. It was just an incredible group of women that I felt completely close with. I think I said to you, Anne, at some point, this is like the best of both worlds. I'm getting to do the work, which I love. I love self exploration. I love doing the work. I love learning about ways that I can improve myself, make myself better in relationships, whether it's with my kids, my husband, my friends. And then on the other hand, it was like an incredible girls' weekend with 10 amazing women who were all my best friends. And I'm like, this is the perfect combination. You have this space to work on yourself, but you also are having an incredible amount of fun
Mm.
and silliness and amazing food
Yeah.
and beauty. So, yeah, it
Yeah.
was just
So I
amazing.
mean, I love this because you guys are giving such totally different examples of quote unquote the work. So I want to ask that question, like, what is the work? What does that mean? We hear all the time, and like, especially if you're new to like self-growth stuff, it's like, do the work. You have to do your personal growth work, or, I did a lot of work on that. And so now I'm in this other place or whatever. What does that even mean? Like, what do you think?
Okay, I'll go. Um,
My
you
gosh,
know,
you guys, just
I
for the listeners, these two girls are like, you go, no, you go.
we don't want to talk over anybody.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
for me, the work is um, one, being in a space where I feel safe, which Anne provides for you. I didn't have to do the work; she just provides that. Um, but to be honest with myself, to be able to be honest, to really look inside myself and see where maybe my shortcomings are, or maybe areas that I need to maybe look at a little bit more closely. When I say be honest with myself, like, is this really what I think that how I am portraying to people, or is this something that I'm trying to put a front over?
Mm.
Um, so that's a big thing for me is
Well, it sounds like for you, there's like an element of being in that safe space. That's the first thing you said was the safety. And because when you feel that safety, you can kind of let down any sort of fronts, like you said, and be more vulnerable and honest with yourself and all of that stuff. So, to kind of weave in how I feel about the work, like to me, the actual nuts and bolts of what we're doing is not always what I focus on. It's more about anything that helps me raise my consciousness and increases my self awareness.
yeah,
So, to dovetail with what you're saying, Allie, it's like, yeah, well, I can't have that self awareness. I can't really look at myself in that true, deep way if I feel defended, if I feel like I can't be vulnerable, if I don't feel safe. That's like a piece of being able to do the work is being in a place where you can let your guard down, essentially. Yeah.
absolutely.
How about for you, Johnna?
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with everything that you both have said. And to build on it, for me, I think the work has taken many different forms and probably will continue to
Mm-hmm.
throughout life. And I think that, sometimes that's a lot of self-work and self-exploration in a solo space, like
Mm-hmm.
journaling, meditating. Sometimes it's in therapy, and sometimes it's in individual coaching. And I think also a, it was interesting because I probably would have never named, for me, part of the work being in a group environment and doing the exploration. Um, and I think that it's the very reason is because that is the work that I need to do. So for me, I think the work is also the self-exploration and growth and the trajectory, but it's also the willingness and openness to look at where you're putting barriers and trying to understand if there's something deeper there. And for me,
Right.
being in a group and doing the work has always been a barrier. It has never been. I'm the most social person. I'm the most extremely social person. Anyone who knows me knows that. Yet I have never wanted to participate in any group thing that is related to this. And in fact, so this was for many reasons, this retreat was such a stretch in that way. And I think it was a challenge for me to do that. But again, as you said, Allie, the way you created such a safe space, and also I actually think being with most women who I didn't know actually made it feel a bit safer for me, I would say.
Mhm.
Um, but it, that ended up being part of the work I needed to do too, is to be able to be vulnerable
Mhm.
and release self-judgment in a group space. And, that I think was a real catapult for me.
Well, and to bring it back to motherhood, I think you're touching on something that's so profound, Johnna, because like, and you correct me if you think I'm off base here, but I think one of the reasons why it would be hard for an Ania type 2, which is what you are, right? Um, for a type 2 to do personal growth work in a group setting is because when you're in a group setting, you immediately become caretaker.
Mm,
And so, how are you going to take care of yourself when you are in a situation? The only way you could take care of yourself is if you're alone and there's no one else to take care of, right? So, it makes
yeah.
perfect sense that you being in a group is part of that, like, sort of growth edge for you. And it also, I think, no matter what Ania type people are, as parents, and especially as moms, we could totally resonate with it, the challenge of taking care of ourselves when we are around our family that we are meant to be taking care of. And how do we carve that out? And in a way, you doing this work in a group setting is almost like grooming you for being able to take care of yourself when you're back home with your family, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, how is that landing with you?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I also, well, this may be part of the two or just the empath in me, but it's like I so quickly attune to what everybody else is needing,
Mhm.
even if I'm not in anywhere, like at the retreat, I'm not in any role to take care of others. It's just a natural instinct to tune in to what I feel like other people
100%.
might need or what they're
Yeah.
experiencing. So you're right. I think it is, it makes it more challenging for me to step back from, um, playing that role of
Yeah.
caretaker or supportive, or it makes it almost feel more selfish in a
Hmm.
way to spend the time on me or the focus on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a really great segue into this idea of like, what is the impact? Like for you, what was the impact of coming on the retreat and doing this work? Like, how did it kind of trickle or ripple out into your life as a whole? Allie, do you want to maybe take that question first?
Yeah. Um, I mean, for me, the biggest thing, because of just the pure joy and happiness and um, just love and care that I felt all weekend, it really, something that I really struggle with. And we did a lot of work with this. I really struggle a lot with anger and motherhood and with my husband. And so having that experience, and we kind of did this exercise where we just could get angry and
Mhm.
do whatever we would do in an angry space. And that was so freeing for me. That was one of the biggest things that I took home, was really a sense of peace. I will never forget one of the first things one of my daughters said to me when I got home, and we'd kind of just been, talking and going through the the afternoon, she said, Mama, why are you talking so softly? Why are you being so quiet? Like I just had this like calm about me that was amazing. Like I just didn't feel like nothing could ruffle my feathers. It just was this peace.
Yeah.
And that really lasted for quite a long time, which I was very, very thankful for. And then that anger exercise that we did do, I was able to implement that when nobody was in the house. And that was a huge takeaway for me. Being able to release my anger with nobody around, it really helped me have a handle on it more when I needed to, in front of
Yeah.
my kids, with my husband. So that was a big impact in my life, was just a sense of calm and peace.
Yeah, and I'm also hearing you say like a concrete tool that you could continue
Yes.
to use, which is fabulous. Because like, let's face it, no matter how amazing a retreat is, if you don't, do the maintenance work afterwards, it's gonna fade away eventually, right? So you got to have something that you can kind of like rekindle that, when it starts to fade, kind of stuff. So I love
Yes.
that. How about you, Jonna? What was your sort of like impact?
I was thinking about one of the very first things we did, and of course, the retreat last year was about getting wild. And I think that I had a divergent path or image of what that meant for me, and sort of what we've talked about so far about my experience and who I am really resonated in this exercise, because getting wild for me was actually even spending time identifying what I needed and wanted, not just asking for it, but even knowing in myself and then asking for it and seeking it. And I think, um, you know, there's so many different things that I took away from the retreat, but I think probably one of the biggest things was that is that is not just an important tuning into what I need and want and then communicating it or seeking it is, while that sounds selfish, maybe the listeners will even think that's selfish, me saying it right now, but really that is actually the base of how I cultivate the best relationships in my life. And well, spending 46 years one way and shifting gears it's a, it's not, it's like the Titanic here. It's not just like a quick little zippy speedboat. Like this
Turn
is
on
a,
a dime.
I'm not turning on a dime over here. Like this is a work in progress, but it's allowed me to really stop and say, wait, simple things. Someone invited me to do this. Wait, do I want to do that? Does that feel fulfilling to me?
Mhm.
Just even those sort of daily or weekly exercises of pausing and asking myself about that and honoring that actually my needs are just as important. And actually, if I do not do that, I know the person I am. And since the retreat, I've been doing that a lot. And I have noticed that that exercise has actually been what's brought me the peace and calm, because I'm not feeling frazzled and I'm starting to sort of remove the noise, if that
Mhm.
makes sense, and kind of get clarity. And I think I'm showing up as a much better mom, a much better friend, a much better partner, and lots more work to do on all those fronts, of course. But it starts planting the seeds.
Mhm. Mhm. As I loved what you just said about your best connections, I think you said, or your like best relationships come from you knowing and speaking your needs.
Yes.
I really think that's so profound because, I think, well, not to get too Enneagrammy, because I know everyone's like, okay, you just did like 8 weeks on the Enneagram in this podcast series, but you know, twos especially and nines, which Allie may or may not be, where we've just had a whole seven conversation recently. But anyway, both care so much about connection. And the way that they create that connection is by really putting themselves last, either in the nine by self-forgetting and basically like not having a self anymore, or in the two by giving, 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 and caring a ton about what everyone else needs and putting themselves, it's not really self-forgetting, but it's more like self-denying. but the ironic thing for both types is that by doing those things, they actually create distance between them and the people they want to feel close with. You know, when you are always the helper and the people around you are always the helpless, you know, you've created this sort of disparity between them, between you and them, right? Like you're above them in a way, you know, you're not on the same, you're not on a level playing field. So there's distance just is systematically built in by always giving and never receiving. And the same thing with the nine, you know, you want closeness, but it's really hard for people to feel close to somebody who doesn't have any thoughts, opinions, you know, beliefs, values, like they don't have a self. So who am I making friends with? Like who am I getting close with if it's like just a generic nothing, right? And so, but I mean, by the way, all nine types have some strategy that's actually completely sabotaging them. It's just that in the two and the nine, it's all about trying to create closeness, and the thing that they're doing is sabotaging that closeness. And once you decide to be on a level playing field, Johnna, of saying like, here's what I need, and I would love for you to give it to me, and you know, yes or no is both of those are perfectly reasonable answers. Like all of a sudden now you have equanimity between you and the people you care about. It deepens the relationship. It brings a whole
Yes.
nother dimension to it. And gosh, that's just so magical what you just described. I just love that.
Mm.
And I mean, you tell me if I accurately captured that for you. It's all great to have
Absolutely.
like brainiac analysis of something, but I
I
mean,
love your brainiac analysis.
Yeah.
Yes, spot on. Absolutely.
yeah. So that's really cool. I love that you both have totally different sort of mechanisms that you took away and are still, you know, enhancing your life today, almost a year later. So that's
Mhm.
amazing. And you're both coming back this year, is that right?
Yay,
Yes.
yes.
So I'd love to hear like why did you decide to do it again? Because for both of you, this last one was your first one,
Yeah.
and you're both coming back. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to do that.
I mean, for me, it was, I wanted to sign up for next year while I was still on the retreat. I mean, I knew, having experienced it and been there and seen what it could do for me and just how I felt, I knew that I wanted that again. And, you know, like I said, for me, I'm kind of like John. I'm not a social butterfly, but you know, I am social. I have some close girlfriends, and as a mom with, you know, limited time to spend away from our kids, it's always, you know, is it going to be a girls' trip or am I going to take some time for myself? Which girls' trips can be, they are time for yourself, but it's not this really dialed in self exploration and a chance to, you know, do the work. And so I I would choose this retreat over a girls' trip. I mean, at least at this point in my life, a million times over. And that was kind of really what made me want to come back again, is I just wanted to experience that feeling again and be there again, and really just build on um what I started this
Mm-hmm.
year. And that was one thing, you know, we talked about, Anne, on our one on one, is just not being afraid to be myself when I come home. And that was something on the retreat. I just felt so free and so able to be myself. And it was such an amazing feeling. And for, you know, many reasons, it's been hard to carry that over into now. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to go back again and
Yeah.
try to, yeah,
But
get
I'm
back
so
there.
glad that you brought up the whole, like, you know, you felt like yourself, you felt free, you felt light and everything, because here we are talking about the work, do the work, 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 work. It can kind of sound heavy to somebody, but kind of the whole point of a retreat is that the work doesn't feel like work. It just feels like,
Right.
you know, really getting maybe to the heart of something, but it's done in a way that, well, first of all, you're not spending 24/7 just like deeply, you know, exercising your demons here. You know, It's, we do these exercises and stuff, and then we go have lunch, and then we go to a winery, and then we go on a hike, and then we go jump in the lake.
Yes,
If you
right.
want, and that ability to just choose the stuff that's like, I'm not jumping in a lake. So you have fun, everybody. I'll see you on
Yeah.
the flip side, which is totally fine, and so it takes this like idea of doing the work and turns it into something that's totally palatable, doable, and not just doable but enjoyable. And that was what I observed so much in you, Allie, was like it felt like you just dropped off your like 10-ton elephant at the door and were just like, you were like a kid.
Yeah,
You were just like joie de vivre, a kid in a candy store, like, and just going for it with everything. And I will say, I watched your energy. It was like infectious. And everybody else was like, oh, we're kids in a candy store. Cool. Sign me up. And it just like was like popcorn. Everyone was just like, just totally being so joyful and free. And it's kind of funny because the theme was about being wild and free, but what really came across was just like unfettered joy.
joy. Yeah.
And so that whole like be yourself, like, oh my gosh, when you bring that joy to bear, it is like it's magnetic. And you like raise the like not just the consciousness, but the like playfulness and self-connection of everyone around you. This is why I was like, I don't know, I'm getting some seven vibes from you. So I'm so curious to know when you look into it if you think you resonate more with the seven. But anyway, yeah, like I love the idea of that work not being work,
Not being work.
and that it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be heavy, it doesn't have to be serious, it doesn't have to be painful for it to be absolutely transformative.
That's right. Yeah. And one thing I've been thinking throughout this conversation is there is a lot of internalization work, but from what Johnna said, in the group setting, and especially, this incredible group that we had, people are processing their own work many times out loud, and you're witnessing that. And that actually, my work occurred because of hearing somebody else process their work. And I was like, oh, yes, that is actually what's going on with me. So it was just really cool to experience that in the grotto when somebody was vocalizing something and you're there just listening and having it wash over you, and you're just in this space, and to be able to realize like that's that's part of my work too. So that was really cool.
Oh, I love that. I love you just like, we're in the grotto.
Yeah.
Anyone who's not coming on the retreat anymore yet,
If you know, you know.
if you
Yes,
know, you
exactly.
know. There's like this room that we put like fur rugs and fur poofs and fur cushions. And so we call it the fur grotto. And that's where we get together when we're doing all of our like coaching and learning and all that great stuff. So oh my gosh, I love that. I love that the grotto has just become like part of our vernacular.
Yes.
That really is like making my day right now. Johnna, what are your thoughts on all this that we've been talking about?
You know what? I was thinking about how when I was on the plane ride home, reflecting about how much I laughed at that retreat and how much I missed laughing like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure I peed myself one night. We had so much fun. And I just, for me, I feel like that for, was that was unleashing something in my own self to feel that joy and feel connected to women in a way that was like deep, but also, silly and, also I won't tell other people's stories, but there were a lot of funny things that actually happened on this retreat.
Yeah.
And I just like the space to be in it all, just however we were, whenever we were. And we really had a lot of different experiences. And, then another thing for me that was something I hadn't tapped into in a while, we did some painting and I loved it. And since then, I have been doing it more and more, and I do it with the
Great.
kids, and my dad
Yeah.
paints. And so we that's something that's been a connection. And I think but your original question was, why am I coming back? And I have to say that while I was there, I was in complete like surrender. I was experiencing joy. I was experiencing growth. I was experiencing connection. I had all of these thoughts and feelings. I got to move my body in multiple ways every day. I ate delicious food. I was with, amazing other humans and just loving those connections and the growth. I couldn't have literally, you could not have made a better retreat. Like I actually filled out I can't think of one thing you could have done better. It was amazing. And me being me, I I leave, I get home, I get back in my life, and I'm thinking, yeah, that was amazing, but I'm not going to do that again. Like checking myself on doing something for myself again.
You're like,
And
don't get
probably,
too big for your britches. That one is enough.
yes,
You should
you
be,
got
that's enough
one,
for you. Yeah.
be happy. And then I start second guessing, did I, okay, did I really have that much fun? Oh no, I must have just been reflecting on it. And, Anne knows my husband well. And literally a couple weeks later, he said to me, gosh, like, I don't know what happened at that retreat, but this is amazing. Whatever's going on here, please tell me you're signing up. And I said, did you notice a difference? He's like, your whole demeanor has changed. Like, you have a glow, you're so calm, the way you're speaking with the kids, like everything is shifted. And please tell me you're signing up again. So
And then you were like, no, I don't think I
Done.
need to. Didn't
I was
he?
like,
I
are
don't
you
know.
sure? Yeah, I did
I don't want to
question it.
misremember it, but
No, you're
I thought
remembering.
he had to like force you on.
He kind of did because this is what I do. I sort of have this, it's sort of like a self-defeating mechanism, I think, where I'm like, no, no, it's fine. It really, it wasn't that great actually. And he's like, yeah, no, it was. And you're just going to have to suck it up and take care of yourself and do this again.
That's
I
so
finally
awesome.
relented.
It's so great when we have those supportive partners. And then I will always also tell my clients, like, don't let you don't make it so contingent on your partner being supportive, you giving yourself what you need. I mean, it's wonderful when that happens, but also if you know what you need, you don't need to ask permission. You can make it happen and give yourself what you need. So, but
Well,
I love
also,
that's how it is for you.
and Donnie is quite the listener of your podcast, so he's going to hear this. But just so everybody is clear,
Everyone say hi to Donnie.
Hi,
hi, Donnie.
Donnie.
Um, this was not always the case. We've
Oh.
been on a growth journey as a couple too, and we both
Mhm.
have as individuals. So this is an evolved place that we're speaking and working from, and constantly evolving because the work needs to continue. But 3 or 4 years ago, this would not have been the conversation that we had, nor would it have been. I probably would have never made the choice to do something for myself. So this is this is a result of what has happened from some of our work together. So
That's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that Mike and I have in common. We always joke we have like nothing in common, except we have one major thing in common, which is that we are obsessed with our own like self-improvement. So
Amazing.
that's the saving grace for our marriage. We don't like the same food, we don't like the same movies. He loves sports, I hate sports. Like, it's he's like Mr. Optimist, and I'm like, let me tell you how it really is. And like so yeah, and he was like total sports and like Greek system in college, and I was like raging hippie. So it's like
Yeah.
that
very
tracks.
much opposites attract here. So I just love this like lighthearted conversation about like just how fun it is and how much like I think the whole point of this, like when you started the podcast, it's like, what is the work? What does that really mean? What's the impact of doing it? And it seems like our kind of conclusion in terms of like, what is the work is like literally what we said in the beginning. Like it's anything that gets you moving, forward and growing. And for me, it's about like raising consciousness and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily work. Like, I think that's
Right.
another thing that that has really come out of this conversation. Like, the work could be letting someone cook you a meal. The work could be, just letting go and having a blast. The work could be listening to somebody else have a realization, or moving your body, or whatever. And even the part of the work that's about confronting things doesn't have to feel terrifying when you're in that safe space, and it doesn't feel scary to drop down your defenses and be vulnerable. Even that sort of self-confrontation stuff becomes so doable. And gosh, Johnna, you said you were reflecting on how much you were laughing. So I did the interview with Melissa and KB earlier today, and same thing, we were laughing our butts off, in that conversation. And then right before I hopped on to do this chat with you guys, I was just kind of like sitting on the couch, and I had the feeling in my body where I was like, I feel like I've just had a really good cry. You kind of have that like wrung out dish rag feeling. And I was like, why? I haven't cried today. I'm not sad at all. And I realized it was because I'd been laughing so much that I felt that same sort of like cleansing
Yes.
and like expunging or something like that. And it made me really realize in a very like bodily way how close laughter and crying are, and how nourishing both of them are, and how necessary they are, and how laughing your ass off can be the work sometimes.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
feel like that was a huge part of what we did on the retreat last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Absolutely.
my gosh. Okay, I'm going to ask two more questions. The first is just stream of consciousness. Don't overthink it. What was your favorite part, like best favorite part of the retreat? Allie, go first. John,
It's so
an
hard.
existential crisis.
I see your
I
face.
am.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the space, the hammock, the view, one of my all-time favorite when I close my eyes and I think sitting by the lake, the painting, the sun was on our faces. It was literally, we could not have asked for a more perfect weekend with weather. And I also had not painted in so long, and tapping into that, sitting like in there, you're in nature on the rocks, the sound of the waves. I mean, is probably one of my favorite memories of the retreat, is that time feeling the sun on my face in that space, looking out at the lake. But I mean, and then turning around and looking up, I mean, the space is just absolutely incredible. The woods, the trees, all of it's just amazing. And then the yoga in the morning. I mean, I just absolutely adore yoga. And that was, waking up and being able to, have fresh coffee made and getting out on the deck and moving our bodies, looking up at the trees. I mean, that was just, it was special. It's a special place.
It's hard to beat yoga in your
It
PJs.
is. It is. It is.
And overlooking the lake and that
The
view.
lake. I
Oh,
know.
it's truly unbelievable.
Okay, Jonna, you're up. What's your favorite?
Guys,
Three,
I
two, one,
can't
go.
top what
I
Allie's
know.
just said.
I
Like
know.
all those things you just said. Um, yes, and so I totally agree. And as soon as you started talking, all I could see is the lake and the sun and the colors of the leaves, and I was just there, and oh, it was like a true nature bath. But the one thing I'm gonna say that topped it all is a feeling I had, which was just feeling so cared for.
Yep.
Like I think I've never had that intense of a feeling of being cared for ever in my life. And it was really
Yeah.
beautiful.
I love that. You're almost getting me a little verklempt over here, Jonna.
Yeah.
But I love that. I mean, my favorite thing about these conversations is knowing that I'm an Ania type 1, so I like that like confirmation that I hit the mark, and like what you all are describing is exactly the feeling that I try to curate for everybody, that I mean, how often as an adult, I mean, forget about being a mom even, like, I mean, as a mom, it's like even further away. But like, just how often as an adult are you really held and led and taken care of in this way that it really does feel like surrender? And one of you guys used the word surrender, that feeling of just being like, you know, almost like being a kid again, but in a, depending on how your childhood was, you might not have ever actually felt that way in your childhood, but like how childhood is supposed to feel, and how we're trying to create the childhood that that our kids get to experience, that whether we did or not, of just being like, I'm safe, I'm held, I'm loved, I'm cared for, it's going to be okay, and I don't actually need to really overthink it or even think it at all, let alone overthink it. You know what I mean? It's just, those are the feeling. I know I can speak for myself. Like, that's not the experience I had in my childhood. And it's like, I feels like that's the thing that I'm constantly creating over and over and over again for myself and for the people I love, because it feels so precious and needed to me. So I just, hearing you say that, it just feels so gratifying, just so grateful. It's really funny. I said at the end of the interview with Melissa and KB, I was like, I was expecting to hear you guys say nice things about the retreat, but I wasn't ready. I don't know why it didn't occur to me that I was going to also listen to you say really nice things about me. And I just like was like blushing and like grinning ear to ear and all that. So it's just been great to listen to you all and get hyped up and excited again for the retreat. Okay, last question. There's somebody out there. I don't know if you have this. I've had this conversation with my own coach recently, where it's like, I know how it feels when I hear other people talking about things, whether it's like maybe it's in an ad, but also it might just be like just overhearing girls chat or whatever, where I think, oh my gosh, that sounds so great, but I don't think, oh, they're talking to me. I think like, and it literally could be something that's like, are you a mom with teenagers who lives in Colorado? And I'd be like, wow, that sounds like a really great thing for all those moms with teenagers who live in Colorado. And it doesn't occur to me like, oh, they're talking to me. That's me. Like what they're talking about, I could have that. That could be for me. And I always feel like it's like one of the biggest mysteries in my business, the business side of my practice, is like, how do I get past, like, I don't even know how that switch gets flipped in myself, but I know it does, but I don't know what flips it, where it goes from like, oh, that's really nice, to like, oh no, that's for me. And so I always am like wondering, like, what would you say, like, what is the thing that we need to say that helps that mom who's listening to this podcast right now realize, like, we're talking to you. We want you to be there. Like, I want to take care of you. Like, so what would you say to that mom who's like, oh, that's really nice for someone else, but not for me?
Do you have an answer ready, Allie? I feel like.
I mean, the first thing that pops into my head is, you deserve it. Anything can be worked out. Anything can be overcome. Barriers, whatever. I mean, because I put 1,000,001 in my way when I heard this. When I first saw the information about the retreat and I read about it, I mean, I was like, oh, that's incredible. This is amazing. This sounds exactly up my alley. And Anne had, we had conversations and, oh, but no, I can't do this because this and this and this and this. And there's going to be a million reasons, and they can all be figured out. And you deserve it. And it's just time to take that leap. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And just to go back to something that I really felt come out of this whole experience. So I want to say two things. One is, this is a gift to yourself, but it is also a gift to everybody else in your life. Because when you take the time to be cared for, to be reflective, and to sit in the space of your authentic self, you bring that back, and that really has reverberating positive impacts throughout your whole life. And that may be certainly with your kids and with your partner. It may also be at work. It could be in any place and space, because it's you at your core that's transforming. And the other thing that I would say is that sometimes I think when we talk about the work, that can feel maybe intimidating to people who might judge where they're at in their own journey of that. And what I would say is my experience with you, Anne, and certainly with the retreat, is that every single person, no matter where you are, who you are, is welcome and loved. And it is all for our own selves to pick where we are in our journey and go from there. And there is a place for everybody. There is a journey for everyone. There are tools and pathways. And there's the gift of excusing yourself from an activity if it does not feel right, which I noticed not one of us ever did, but it really felt wonderful to have the freedom to do that. So I think it's just, yeah, I think it's a gift to yourself. It's a gift to everyone. And it's for you, no matter where you are in your journey.
That's a really good point. You don't have to be like years into your self-growth work to undertake this. In fact, a couple years ago, we had someone come on the retreat who was a much younger mom, and she really was just kind of getting started with this stuff. And it was life-changing for her, even though the thing that she took out of it was totally different than the thing that other people, everyone takes what they are ready to receive, essentially, but it's all there for you, but you're not going to, have to engage with it at a level that's not where you're at. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I also think it's a testament to the environment that you just said, Johnna, like nobody actually opted out of anything, because on the last interview, Melissa was like, I didn't do that art thing, and I was so proud of myself for saying no to it. But it was just it's just a testament to how like everyone is engaged in what they're doing, and it just feels right and organic. So it wasn't even a noticeable like, oh, what's up with her? Why isn't she over here? Where's Melissa? It wasn't like that at all. She did her own thing, and it was perfect for her, and it was perfect for us. Like it was not like a record scratch moment at all. There was no discord because of that. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people maybe want to opt out of stuff at events like this, but they don't, is because like, well, everyone's going to feel awkward because I'm not there. And, it wasn't like that. So
yeah,
I love that you were like, nobody did it. And Melissa was like, I did it. And it was awesome,
Now I'm sort of feeling bad that I didn't notice Melissa.
Okay, stop tooing yourself. No, it's perfect. I mean, that's the beauty. And as a facilitator, I can tell you, like, that to me is like mission accomplished. Like that, I'm not just saying do what you want and don't do something if it doesn't feel right to you. I have managed to create a situation in which that's truly possible, and it's no problem at all. And that's really, it's like a kind of sweet spot that you want to create, is that cohesion. Like Allie said, we feel like family, but at the same time, like we're all on our own journeys, and there's no that whatsoever. So oh my gosh, yeah. As you guys were talking, and I was saying, like, I don't know what is it that flips that switch for me. I have a couple of moments in my life where I literally observed myself going from like, oh, that's really nice, oh, good point, blah blah blah, but really seeing it from the outside. And then that switch getting flipped in me. And almost all of those examples were when I started to imagine myself having the thing that they were talking about. Like I started to actually imagine, like the first example I thought of was when I first signed up for a business program to get me to start this practice, my business that I have right now. And it was a whole weekend long thing. And I spent the whole weekend being like, well, this is interesting, but it was much more like academic to me. And it wasn't until the third day where I started actually like imagining what it would be like to like really bring in a significant income to my family, and what it would be like to like spend my days doing exactly what we're doing right now, like having deep conversation and helping people and watching them on their growth journey. And I got so excited about it. I finally started thinking, well, like, why not me? Like if someone else could do that, I'm watching all these other people in this room who are like going for it. Why couldn't I do it too? And that's turned into like, well, I could do it. And then it was like, well, I'm going to do it. And like, hello, this is, this guy's been talking to me this whole flipping weekend, but I thought he was talking to the person behind me or something.
Yeah.
But it all started with me actually like literally allowing myself to dream, like dare to dream, like you could be the one in the hammock, kind of thing. Like, and it's so funny how we just don't think that these things that exist in the world are perfectly available to us. Like this whole world is a buffet and you get to pick, and it's not like any part of it is like forbidden to you. And actually that one experience completely changed my life. I really now almost I've trained myself through my own coaching to, when something is offered, I almost immediately consider it for myself. And my kids make fun of me because when we watch TV, I'm like, well, that sounds really cool. Maybe we should buy that thing. And my kids are like, Mom, you are so gullible. But I'm not gullible. It's just that I no longer believe that there's anything off limits to me.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that's presented to me, it's absolutely perfectly reasonable for me to consider whether or not I want it, because I could have it. And it's like a totally different way of navigating the world. And it's very, very interesting, this like idea that we really think people are talking to someone other than us.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
last thoughts or last little sign offs before we say goodbye. Hard to think of it.
I know.
We said a lot.
I know we did. I mean, I know Johnna touched on the food. I mean, that's of course that's the first thing that pops into my mind.
You're like, and also there's food. Don't forget about that.
I mean, the food, unbelievable.
Yeah,
just unbelievable. It's just next level. And you don't. I don't know. I was not expecting that. I mean, I was expecting nourishing, healthy food. I was not expecting the level of just flavor explosion and expertise, and then just like the care. I mean, just every detail. What would you like in the fridge? All the pre-retreat prep, and I just felt so special, as I'm sure every other woman did. Like it was just really, you're just so cared for.
Yeah, you get it when you register for the retreat. You get a little bit of a long questionnaire.
Yeah,
I know, what are your favorite drinks? What do you like to have in the morning? What temperature do you like the room to be? What's your shoe size? What's your color?
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I know, I mean, I don't want to, talk the money part, but for me, you look at the price and you think, at least I did. I was like, no, that's a significant amount of money to spend on myself. But having been there and experienced it all, I'm like, I can't believe it's not more. I mean, honestly, like having experienced it and just the level of care and all of the detail and the incredible experiences. And again, like we said, it is deep and it's work, but it's so much fun. But then on the same hand, you're getting so much out of it. I mean, it's like I would have paid double. Not that I want to, but I would.
Yeah, if you had the square reader on the way out the door, a lot of us would have doubled the money.
Yes. Seriously. Seriously.
Yeah, maybe this year I should accept tips.
Yes.
No, kidding. No, I love that you say that, because that's another like nail on the head for me. Like that's exactly what I always want to over deliver. And I mean, obviously you have to cover your costs. You have to make a living and all of that good stuff. But like, when I think about 5 days, totally all inclusive, like what would I expect to pay or whatever, I always want to almost be surprised by my own prices. Like I always want to look at them and be like, wait a minute, is that right? Did I do the math wrong? Like, and that moment happens to me almost every year. And I almost panic where I'm like, oh no, I'm going to lose money on this thing, but I'm not. It's just that I really have chosen to like make sure that I'm making my like modest, whatever, but I don't need to be like, that's not need to be the same as going on an all-inclusive resort in Cancun, which by the way, wouldn't even be as nice as coming on this retreat.
Not one part of it would be as nice. No. And I would just say, you say that, and the all-inclusive, and it's like, I probably read that 15 times everywhere, and I did not really understand what that meant until we arrived and I experienced it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I just don't think I could emphasize this point more that every single detail is curated, including downtime, free time, movement time, the meals, you know, I don't know if it's still going to happen, but the massage, like literally everything. You don't have to think for a second.
Mm-mm.
All of it's been
Yes.
done for you. And I
Mm.
think beyond just like the money covers everything, it's that you do not have to spend any of your emotional or mental load thinking about, well, you do, Anne. We, as, participants do not have to spend one, you know, portion of that we often spend all through our daily lives on
Yeah.
everybody and everything else. It's completely freed up. And the magic that happens when you don't carry that mental and emotional load that you don't even know you're carrying every day is it is truly unlike anything you could ever experience in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's almost
priceless.
hard to imagine, like, what would you be capable of if you didn't have all of that running through your mind? Like, it's
Yeah.
like, holy cow, like this, you're freed up to like do that. And I think that's another reason
Yes.
work doesn't feel like work, is because you're not like pushing all this stuff to the side so that you can just frickin' plug in and answer these questions or whatever. There's nothing to push to the side.
Yes.
It's just that's the idea anyway, is that you really have taken everything off of you so that you're completely free to navigate this experience on your own terms and discover what you need to discover and hold it and stay with it and on all of that stuff in ways that it's tricky to do the rest of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, well, you guys, I'm just so grateful that you gave of your time and were so open to share. And I hope you've inspired people. If you're listening to this, I mean, obviously, I want you to feel inspired to come on the retreat and just realize that it is for you and you do deserve it. But even if the retreat isn't for you, I hope that what you take from today is the idea of like that doing the work is doable. You don't have to do it by yourself. It doesn't have to look like whatever maybe you think it looks like. It doesn't have to be excruciating. It doesn't have to be unpleasant. Like, I really hope that people listening to this are inspired to believe that like doing whatever it is that they need to do to get where you want to go and become the person that you want to be and all of that stuff, it absolutely is within reach. And maybe you feel inspired this week to do a little bit of that for yourself and give yourself something, a little thing that helps you feel like you're a little bit one step further on your path and all of those things. And if you are feeling inspired and ready to learn more about the retreat, maybe set up a chat with me and just grill me all your retreat questions. I'm good for it. I don't think I've ever had someone sign up for the retreat without first having like a back and forth. It turns into a text conversation where it's like, I'm about to do it. Eek. And I'm like, you go, girl, you can do it. Like, it's hard, So if you feel like, oh, this sounds interesting, but first I need to like ask every single question and really grill this chick. I get it. Everybody does. So but it all starts with like just learning a little bit more about it. So go to the website and check it out. And it's super easy to find. It's bit.ly/retreat deets. So I don't know how I managed to snag that URL, but there you go. And if you just go there, and obviously it'll be in the show notes and all that good stuff, you are going to see. And I always like to tell people like, the pictures on that website are actual real pictures of the place. It's not stock photos at all. And they're all just pictures that my sister and I took with our phones. Like, they're not fancy photography even. So if however beautiful it looks on the website, that's the real deal and then some.
Mm-hmm.
And the smiles are real. They were not photoshopped either.
Yeah.
And we'll be there to welcome you.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thank you so much, girls. I'm just so grateful to both of you. And yeah, I'll see you guys all on the podcast next time. Bye.
Thank
Yes.
you,
Thank you,
Anne.
Anne. Bye.
The episode is over, but there's more waiting for you. You can grab my free workbook, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time, that walks you through the fundamental principles I teach all of my clients and applies them to this very universal parenting challenge. So if you're sick of repeating yourself all day long or just want to learn more about my style, you'll definitely want to go to bit.ly/kidswholisten. And if you're ready to work with me, let's meet. Set up a free call at bit.ly/KaplanCall, and let's create an action plan that gets you exactly where you want to go. And of course, links to all this goodness are in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.